contributed ideas to its manifestos, sometimes indignantly deny membership. And yet the postmodernist party tends to believe that its time has come. It is certain of its uncertainty, and often claims that it has seen through the sustaining illusions of others, and so has grasped the real nature of the cultural and political institutions which surround us. In doing this, postmodernists often follow Marx. They claim to be peculiarly aware of the unique state of contemporary society, immured as it is in what they call the postmodern condition. Postmodernists, therefore, do not simply support aesthetic isms or avant-garde movements such as minimalism or conceptualism, from which work like André's bricks emerged. They have a distinct way of seeing the world as a whole, and use a set of philosophical ideas that not only support an aesthetic, but also analyze a late capitalist cultural condition of postmodernity. This condition is supposed to affect us all, not just through avant-garde art, but also at a more fundamental level, through the influence of that huge growth in media communication by electronic means which Marshall McLuhan in the 1960s called the electronic village. And yet in our new information society, paradoxically enough, most information is apparently to be distrusted, as being more of a contribution to the manipulative image-making of those in power than to the advancement of knowledge. The postmodernist attitude is therefore one of a suspicion which can border on paranoia, as seen, for example, in the conspiracy theory novels of Thomas Pynchon and Don DeLillo and the films of Oliver Stone. A major Marxist commentator on postmodernism, Frederick Jameson, sees John Portman's Westin Bonaventura Hotel in Los Angeles as entirely symptomatic of this condition. Its extraordinary complexities of entranceways, its aspiration towards being a complete world, a kind of miniature city, and its perpetually moving elevators make it a mutation into a postmodernist hyperspace, which transcends the capacities of the human body to locate itself, to find its own position in a mappable world. This milling confusion, says Jameson, is a dilemma, a symbol and analog of the incapacity of our minds to map the great global, multinational, and decentered communicational network in which we find ourselves caught as individual subjects. Many of us have felt something like this in London's Barbican Centre. This lost in a big hotel view of our condition shows postmodernism to be a doctrine for the metropolis, within which a new climate of ideas has arisen and brought with it a new sensibility. But these ideas and attitudes have always been very much open to debate, and in what follows I shall combat postmodernist skepticism with some of my own. Indeed, I will deny that its philosophical and political views and art forms are nearly as dominant as a confident proclamation of a new postmodernist era might suggest. It is nevertheless obvious by now that even if we restrict ourselves to the ideas current within the artistic avant-garde since 1945, we can sense a break with those of the modernist period. The work of James Joyce is very different from that of Alain Robbe-Grillet, that of Igor Stravinsky from that of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, that of Henri Matisse from that of Robert Rauschenberg, of Jean Renoir from that of Jean-Luc Godard, of Jacob Epstein from that of Karl André, and of Mies van der Rohe from that of Robert Venturi. What one makes of this contrast between the modern and the postmodern in the arts largely depends on the values one embraces. There is no single line of development to be found here. Many of these differences arose from the sensitivity of artists to changes in the climate of ideas. By the mid-1960s, critics like Susan Sontag and Ihab Hassan had begun to point out some of the characteristics, in Europe and in the United States, of what we now call postmodernism. They argued that the work of postmodernists was deliberately less unified, less obviously masterful, more playful or anarchic, more concerned with the processes of our understanding than with the pleasures of artistic finish or unity, less inclined to hold a narrative together, and certainly more resistant to a certain interpretation than much of the art that had preceded it. We will look at some examples of this later on. The rise of theory. Somewhat later than the period in which the artists mentioned above established themselves, a further postmodernist development took place, the rise of theory among intellectuals and academics.